What's up, y'all? It's Dr. Paul for Liberty Hill Comics, where I share my passion and over 40 years experience comic book collecting, investing, and conservation with you. Today we're doing something a little bit different. Long-term viewers of the channel know that the gold standard of replacing missing paper in our beloved comic books is leaf casting new paper into the voids to make our comic books whole again. Here at Liberty Hill Comics, we are putting together a toolkit of equipment, materials, and methods to enable aspiring conservators to do their own comic book leaf casting. So what does any of this have to do with a vintage pressure cooker? Did you know that leaf casted paper is just handmade paper, and that essentially all paper pulp is prepared for paper making by cooking under immense pressures? Today, I'm going to give you some advice on acquiring a vintage pressure cooker for preparing paper pulp for leaf casting and how to refurbish your pressure cooker so it's safe and effective. This advice will of course apply to refurbishing a pressure cooker for any use, so if you're here because you inherited your grandmother's pressure cooker and want to make some applesauce, stick around. Pressure cookers are available in many sizes, and most of them made for cooking at home or preparing foods for canning are much larger than this one, which is the smallest size regularly available, known as a 4-quart pressure cooker. For preparing paper pulp to leaf cast comic books, this is just about the perfect size of pressure cooker. We're going to be making paper pulp based on this excellent manuscript by Patricia Ham. You can easily make enough pulp in one batch for an entire comic book, and we won't need anything larger than this for any of our projects. So why buy a vintage pressure cooker when we could just as easily, or perhaps more easily, purchase one from Amazon? Several reasons. Firstly, if you look at the offerings on Amazon, as far as I could tell, most of them are made in China. And when you read the reviews, they are generally made from very thin metal. Personally, I'm a reduce, reuse, recycle guy, and while comic book conservation is not a hobby with a particularly high impact on the environment, I'm always conscious of the environmental impact of all of my actions. In 20 years, will companies producing these Chinese pressure cookers still be in business? Will you still be able to purchase parts to keep the pressure cooker in service? I highly doubt it in today's consumer economy, where essentially everything is disposable. There are an abundance of sturdy, American-made, used pressure cookers on eBay, in flea markets, garage sales, and at thrift stores across our great country. Money can be found on eBay for $15 to $25 plus shipping, and some for even less. And I'm sure in a thrift store or yard sale you'd be looking at about $5 to $10 for one like this. Contrast that with anything from $40 to $150 for a new, shiny, flimsy one with a fresh carbon footprint and dismal maintenance future, and for me, it's a no-brainer. I purchased this one on eBay for under $30 all in, and it came with everything you see here. My particular model was made by the Miro Aluminum Company of Manitowoc, Wisconsin in 1977, so it's nearly 50 years old. The user manual I got with it is copyrighted 1972, a particularly good year if I do say so myself. It's crazy sturdy and will, I'm sure, outlast me and likely outlast my children and their children if well cared for. That said, pressure cookers operate at dangerous temperatures and pressures, so you have to be cautious. And personally, I would not use a vintage pressure cooker without inspecting it and refurbishing it and replacing any wearable parts. Luckily, Miro was such a prolific producer of these pressure cookers and made them to last, so parts availability is quite good. I was able to find everything I needed to put this pressure cooker back in working order in no time. In the end, I'll have a super sturdy vintage pressure cooker built like a tank with a low carbon footprint for about the same as a new disposable Chinese import. That said, this one needed some work. as you can see, this is a safety valve that somebody has apparently just filled with solder at some point in its history. I can only guess the safety valve blew and they wanted to keep using it, so we'll be replacing that. The vent tube that controls the actual pressure is in great shape. It is also a service part. It's replaceable. This gasket is another service part. This gasket is seen better days. It's got some cracks in it. As a matter of fact, it's kind of brittle and it just fell apart, which is fine. I expected it to, and I purchased a new one. This is the correct gasket. All the parts that I needed were spelled out in the user manual that I got with the pressure cooker. So this was easy to find, easy to order, readily available. This is the list of models, and these model numbers are cast into the bottom of the pressure cooker. So even without the internet, future generations will be able to find out what they need, and they'll be able to replace this again in 50 years. This gasket's simple replacement. Just slide it in, done. To replace this bubbled up safety fuse, all I needed was a 9/16 wrench. So this was relatively straightforward to remove. It is a pipe thread, just threaded into the aluminum top. So that was pretty easy to remove. And here is the new part. Again, genuine Muromatic part. This is the part number. Comes from the catalog. The user manual tells you exactly which vent safety fuse you need. This safety fuse is designed to blow and relieve the pressure if you ever have your vent tube clogged, and this is what it looks like, so that you don't have a dangerous overpressure situation. Again, it's a pipe thread, threads right in here, 9/16 wrench, the same as the one that the old bubbled up safety fuse came out of. Pretty simple and effective, and again, hopefully we won't have to replace it anytime soon, but if we do, it probably protected us from a dangerous situation. So also replaceable on into the future. With these two wearable parts replaced, I think this is essentially your worst case scenario. The handle here is made of Bakelite. It is also replaceable should you need a new one, should you crack it or something, but this one's 50 years old and in great shape. So with those two wearable parts replaced, I have a completely functional vintage 4-quart pressure cooker ready to make some pulp so we can leaf cast some comic books. This particular pressure cooker operates at 15 psi. It's a fixed one. They do sell them with adjustable 10, 15, 20 psi weights that would set here. At 15 psi, water boils at 120 degrees centigrade or about 255 degrees Fahrenheit. This will allow us to prepare paper pulp in a fraction of the time it would take at ambient temperature and pressure, and with a more consistent texture. It's also a great way to prepare paper pulp for long-term preservation by canning. Paper pulp will spoil in a few days' time, and if you want to make a batch for a comic book so that every page has a consistent color, but don't have time to leaf cast 16 wraps of a Golden Age comic book in a few days before the pulp spoils, because you are a hobbyist like I am, then canning is a great way to preserve your paper pulp until you're ready to use it. These are 4-ounce jars that hold 100 mils of paper pulp for future use. Each jar has the same amount of pulp in it, and I used one jar to make a sample sheet of paper, so I know exactly how much paper each jar will make and what color it will be, which will allow me to titrate the exact amount I need for future projects. and it will keep indefinitely on the shelf in my conservation studio. In future videos, I will go into the entire process of preparing the pulp and preserving it. So if you enjoyed this video, please join me for those. Let me know what you think of this video, leave me a thumbs up or comment below, and if you haven't subscribed already, please do. Until next time, take care of one another. And if you made it this far, then you're a true fan of this sort of content, and I want to call your attention to the 2024 YouTube Comic Book Community Awards. Creating content for YouTube is a labor of love, and a way for us to connect with others that share our passion. The awards recognize the incredible amount of work that goes into creating content for YouTube and bringing it to you viewers. I'm humbled and filled with gratitude to have been recognized this year as a finalist, and I'm thrilled to be listed among these other fine channels. Please take a minute and go vote for one of us. Everyone here is doing it for the love of the community. I've put a link in the description to make it easy for you to cast your vote. And if you want more comic book conservation content, check out the live show which airs Sunday evenings at 8:35 Eastern with my co-hosts Captain Larry of Flying L Comics and Phil of Phantom Restoration. Until next time, take care of one another.